I'm looking at this thing, bro, and I'm like, legitimately, this thing's bigger than a turd. Like, I'm not cool with this. Not one bit, bro. Not one bit. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, this thing's bigger than my manhood. I'm not trying to deal with this. And so I go out and I'm like, hey, where's that Vaseline? And everybody's like, bro, we out of Vaseline. And I'm like, what you mean, dog?
It's about the
What you
corn
mean?
cob it.
Right. And so yeah, like I'm like, what am I supposed to do? One dude goes, spit on it. And this other dude goes, hey man, there's this pack of mayonnaise that's been open for a few days. You can use that. And I'm looking at it, it's got a green tint on it, right? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't eat this because I'd probably get sick, but I'm sure it's safe to put in your butt, right? Because I'm just dumb, bro. I'm dumb at that point. I'm like, poo comes out of there, so you know, it probably won't make me sick putting it up in there. Bro, I take that thing into the porta potty.
Man, you already know what it is. Jay Williams, Let's Live Life, and we're back. So you guys asked for it. You asked. You said you have to get JD delay. You have to get JD delay. Well, tonight I have the honor of sitting here with JD delay.
Hey y'all, I'm JD Delay. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it. Like one of the number one, probably the number one person anybody's ever asked me for on my channel for me to collaborate with is this dude right here, man. I'm really excited to be here with you, bro. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm not gonna lie, like I told you earlier, I don't get a lot of time for YouTube. And once I checked into you, it was like a rabbit hole, man. You're awesome at what you do. You're gonna be around for a while. I congratulate you, man. It's good to see you actually having fun with it. So with all that being said, man, we'll start off with the regular. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? Where's JD from?
Yo, so I was born in Santa Rosa, California, and in like the early 80s, that was like kind of a time when there was a couple different organizations that were trying to map out whose turf that was going to be. So it was kind of a bloody time to be there. There was a lot going on, you know what I'm saying? Like my house had a lot of bullet holes in it from drive-bys, stuff like that going on. We grew up in a rough neighborhood. And my dad, hardest working dude I've ever known in my life, man. Vietnam veteran. He was a Marine, saw heavy combat. He was working, you know, 15, 18-hour days, driving all the way to San Francisco and back to do construction every day to save up money to move us somewhere nicer. And he moved us to Eugene, Oregon. And I lived in Oregon for, you know, over 20 years. And there'll always be Oregon in my blood. Even though right now I live in Florida, Oregon definitely left a heavy mark on me.
What is Oregon like? We know California, but you hear Oregon and you don't hear of a lot of people that are from Oregon.
So mainly like what I see when I tell people I'm from Oregon, they're like, oh, like Oregon Trail. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but you know, like if you go to Portland, like Portland's a war zone. You know what I'm saying? Portland, Oregon's constantly in the news for all the stuff that's going on there. It's the Wild West out there, bro. It's an extension of California, but it rains a lot more. It's not as sunny, and there's like heavy rain, heavy clouds. The town in particular that I lived in, Eugene, it's like the hippie capital of the universe. The town center is named after Ken Kesey. It's Kesey Square. He was an old hippie that wrote some books that were pretty heavily read. The main park in town is Jimi Hendrix Park. There's also like a huge undercurrent of drugs and crime. It gets really grimy out there. And you know, I was surprised when I moved here to Florida because the cops don't be shooting people like they do out there. Like you would think Oregon's not that hard. Them cops out on the West Coast, man, they're itching. Their trigger fingers are going. You know, Oregon has a different type of climate, and it's beautiful. You know, where I was at, you're 40 minutes from the ocean, 40 minutes from the mountains, an hour and a half away from some desert. It's really beautiful. It's a cool scene. You got the I-5 corridor, which goes straight from Mexico up through California, up through Oregon, up through Washington. So you get like a lot of stuff coming through there that's being pumped across that border. So drug prices are really low. Crime is pretty high. It's gritty.
How old were you when you moved to Oregon? Were you a kid?
So I was like 13 or 14 when we moved to Oregon.
And y'all moved because your dad just wanted to get y'all to a better area?
Man, he just wanted to build the best life for the family that he possibly could. He moved to Oregon, started his own business. He still has that business. He's in his 70s now. Dude is still working,
Salute to him,
five,
man.
6 days a week, man. He's an Irish soldier. He wanted to be able to buy us a house, and the California market was really steep. It was cheaper in Oregon at the time, and he wanted to get us out of that neighborhood that we were in. And so he moved to Oregon, started his own business, bought a house. I didn't want to move at first. Like when at first I was like, Oregon's that place where people screw sheep, right? You know what I'm saying? That was my thinking at the time of
Right.
being a little smartass. And he was like, no, man, you're gonna like Oregon. And then we moved there, and I was like, damn, I kind of do like Oregon. But within 6 months of being there, big headlines hit. This dude did get caught screwing a horse. And I was like, I told you, Dad. I told you that shit. So
All right. I didn't expect that. Okay, so at 13, are you a good kid at this point? Who were you as a kid?
so look, man, I'm gonna take it back just a notch. Like when I was 6 years old, I was sexually assaulted by somebody that my family knew, and we were a heavily like my family was heavily religious, so like there was this big stigma like that gay people go to hell. And at 6 years old, I thought that being sexually assaulted by somebody meant that I was gay, and that if I
Mm,
talked about it, it wasn't going to be accepted. People weren't going to hear it, that they were going to think I was gay, that I was going to go to hell. So I just kind of stuffed that, bro, because I didn't know how to process it. Most children who are sexually assaulted don't know how to process it.
mhm.
But that was when my behaviors started to slip and go in the wrong direction. And my parents took me to a doctor, and the doctor was like, oh, well, clearly he has ADHD, which 100%, like, Doc was on point with the ADHD, but there was more going on. There was underlying issues that weren't addressed. He put me on Ritalin and then Siler, which is a drug most people haven't heard of that, isn't on the market anymore. It's a heavy stimulant. And then eventually I worked my way up to Adderall eventually. But it gave me a predisposition for amphetamines. But, when I was 13, I would get in some trouble, but it wasn't big trouble. I never did juvenile time or anything like that. I just I I was really smart, and I would get bored at school, so I would act out.
Did they catch the person that assaulted you?
No, they didn't. I didn't actually speak a word about it to any human until I was in my 20s. I
Mm,
was actually in a rehab, and I sobered up, and I started getting these panic attacks, man. Being sober, I started getting panic attacks because I wasn't on my ADHD meds. I wasn't using any other drugs to, numb myself out, and it all came flooding back. And I had a panic attack so bad that they called in an emergency therapist, and I did a lot of work trying to get that figured out and processed. But it's been an ongoing process. I don't think that I really finally made peace with it until I was like 41, 42 years old.
when did the drugs come? All right, and I want to know this. A lot of people say that weed is a gateway drug. Would you agree?
I don't know that weed is exactly a gateway drug. I think that like I had I believe that I was wired for addiction by my traumas. You know what I'm saying? I think that I think that addiction, you can root most people that have substance use disorder back to a root trauma, and it's a trauma-based mental disorder from everything that all the research that I've done. I'm a recovery coach, a peer support specialist. I work in recovery, and it seems like a highly rooted traumatic response. And that can manifest in a lot of different ways. For me, I could have made anything unhealthy, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like if I was smoking weed, I was going to smoke weed like it was heroin. If I was drinking, I was going to drink to kill myself, you know what I'm saying? Not just to kick back and have a couple drinks, because I was already wired like that. Like my brain was already ready to go down that road.
How old were you when you got high for the first time? And I'm not talking weed. I'm talking like you got high.
23 years old. I was bartending, and I was also going to school during the day. Not high school or anything, but I was was going to a bartending academy, and then working at night. And somebody saw how tired I was all the time, and they were like, "Hey man, like, this will pick you up. You'll be able to have energy to do all of this stuff, and you'll be feeling a lot better, and you'll be more productive." And it was a cute girl, which helped. I knew that meth isn't good to do, But
When
I
you've
also,
got a cute girl introducing you to it, it doesn't feel so grimy and cruddy and
you already know it wasn't like some dude with no teeth
right.
and like bad face tattoos. It was a chick that was real put together and really pretty. And I knew from the research that I had done, because like, I like to know about things. Like I knew that it was really close to the meds that the doctor had given me.
Hmm.
So it didn't feel like it would be something that was unsafe. And at that point, I had already messed around with weed, acid, mushrooms, lots of ecstasy, GHB, ketamine. I'd done like a whole gamut of things. I didn't get like physically addicted. That first time that I did meth, bro, I was sold. It was instant, man. It felt like coming home, bro. I was a singer in a metal band, and I was really into my writing. I was really into the writing aspect of it because I'd always written poetry or written, like I was writing books and stuff like that. And I filled a whole notebook within that one high. I was high for like 3 days straight, didn't come down, didn't sleep for 3 days, didn't eat. And I filled a whole book with songs. And
Okay.
I
I
thought they
need to
were great.
know. I need to know after the 3 days and when you went back and read everything you've been writing for 3 days, was it great or was it like, what the hell is this?
It was not great, bro. It was so not great. Like I went back and read it and I was like, bro, yeah,
This is
yeah,
bad.
I can't use much of any of this. You know what I'm saying? But like I really like it's not like I sobered up for long. Like I fell asleep and I was out for like a day because I'd been up for 2 or 3 days, and I ate some food and I immediately went to like find more dope. And the chick that had gotten me high, she was like, "Yeah, I don't feel comfortable getting you more. Like you kind of went really hard. Like you kind of scared me at how long you stayed up." So I had to find somebody else who would sell me meth. Immediately went into dealing with some grittier people. It went from the cute girl who was just trying to help me out to immediately dealing with some grimier people. It was off to the races, dog. Like I didn't have breaks from the first time I hit that pipe.
First time, how long did it take you? I mean, to just fully be, this is what it is. Not like I'm gonna go find it, but I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to have it. Like, was it from that day forward?
I had plenty of money, bro, because I was bartending, and I was able to for about the first year and a half, I was fully able to function and work and stay high the whole time. I'd sneak off to the bathroom and hit some key bumps during my shift. Nobody could really tell, because if you have ADHD and you do stimulants like meth, it has kind of an opposite effect on you. You
Hmm.
seem more calm, you seem more focused. So I was really able to fly under the radar. It wasn't really until shortly after I caught my first felony that I wasn't able to hold things together anymore. And I became fully committed probably the day that I caught my first felony. Like I knew that, I caught my first felony for possession of meth. And
Hmm.
I'd never been in any legal trouble before, and all of a sudden I'm a convicted felon for the rest of my life.
Walk
You
me
know,
through that. Something happens. There's red and blue lights behind you. Like, walk me through your first arrest.
So I was working at a bar in downtown Eugene, and since I was the bartender, I always left after everybody else. And driving away from a bar at 3:30 in the morning, a cop sees you, they're interested. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You got their attention. So I'm driving away, and he hits the lights, and he pulls me over, and he's like, "I smell alcohol in the car." I'm like, "You probably do, because I'm a bartender and I work with alcohol all night long." And he's like, "Well, you don't seem sober." I was like, "I'm 100% sober. I don't drink." He gave me the breathalyzer and was like, "I'd like to search your car." And I'm like, "Absolutely not." And he goes, "Well, cuff up." I'm 23 years old. I've never been in trouble before. I didn't consent to the search. I just told him, I'm not giving you permission to search my stuff.
That's a legal search and seizure.
Yeah, but like, bro, I didn't know better at the time.
Right.
And he found my stuff, and he was like, "Look, you can tell me what this is, or I can take you to jail." He's like, if I have to take this and have it tested, he was just screwing with me. He gave me a ticket, and then I had to go to court for it. And I went into court, and they're like, "This is your first offense, and you really don't want to go down this road." And I was like, "Yeah, 100%." Knowing I got a bag of meth in the car, knowing as soon as I walk out of courthouse, I'm going back to
Hmm.
smoke. But they gave me what they always give you. They do 10 days for a felony possession. They asked me if I wanted it all at once or weekends. I was like, well, can I do my weekends on a Monday and Tuesday? Because those are my days off. They were like, sure. So, I did that. It was no big deal. But at that point, I knew that anytime I filled out a job application, anytime I filled out a housing application, there was that box that I was going to have to check saying that I'm a convicted felon for possession of methamphetamines. Like my ability to care about my criminal record just went right out the window. I was like,
Right.
it don't matter if it's 1 or it's 3 or 4. I never thought that I would have the amount that I have today. I look like a
Mhm.
monster, but that was really when I just committed. Ended up losing my job shortly after when the owner found out it happened, and that I was using. I had some homeboys that were stealing cars, and I needed money, and they were like, "Yo, why don't you come with us? We
So
need
you're
somebody."
jobless at this point now. You've got this addiction.
My driver's license is gone because they suspend your license for 6 months. I got to spend 2 days a week in jail for 5 weeks. I'm out of money. I'm smoking all my money. These dudes are like, yeah, why don't you come do lookout for me? I'll steal some cars and I'll break you off. We use the shave key method. Today, it's not something you can go out and do and hurt people with. The cars today are way beyond that. First time he turned a car over and I ran and got in that thing and he hit the gas and took off, I was sold. I had to know everything. I had to learn how to do it. He taught me. He taught me everything about how to steal cars, and that's just what I did. I ended up meeting some Russians in Portland. We were getting $600-700 for every car, and we could steal, 6 to 10 cars in a night. So it was money hand over fist. Really grimy. Like I'm
What kind
not
of cars are you
glamorizing this.
talking? You said Russian, so my mind immediately goes to like expensive cars, nice cars.
They would take, Hondas, Toyotas, Nissans, Mazdas. It didn't really matter because they were making so much more off of them than what they were
Mhm.
giving us and what their shipping costs were, that they would take anything as long as it was decent. If it was one of those new Hondas, new Toyota, it was all day.
They take it, package them into a shipping container, load them onto a boat with a whole bunch of other shipping containers, and next you know, it's Russia bound.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it
So
always ends bad. When did that come to a halt?
that came to a halt in 2006. I had gotten caught in 3 high-speed chases in stolen cars, and the way it works in Oregon is they'll just keep letting you out so that they can stack cases on you so they can put you away for a while. And so they stacked some cases on me and they sentenced me to 39 months upstate. I went up there, not in a gang. They put me in intake, and at the reception center, I had
And
this
this is
one.
state prison.
Yeah, I had this one. Let me get it in there. You see that clover?
Mhm.
I had that clover tattoo on my hand, nothing else. The person who was doing my intake was like, yo, you're in a gang. And I'm
STG.
like, yeah, STG, security threat group. I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm not, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. She was like, well, you have that clover. So you're either this white supremacist gang from California or you're this gang that's here in Oregon. I'm not a white supremacist. No, I'm not. None of that. So she marked me down as the other gang that was a gang from Oregon. That took me, even though I was a minimum custody inmate, they put me in a medium to start. They shipped me out to Gladiator School in Ontario, Oregon, Snake River Correctional Institution. They started selling me up with dudes that were in this gang.
How old are you at this point?
I was 26. They started putting me in cells with dudes from this gang, and they were the coolest dudes. I ended up clicking up. It
Mhm.
just sort of made sense to me. That was a process. My very first day at Snake River, I went out to the yard, my very first yard, and within 10 minutes, I watched a dude bleed to death in front of me. There
Mhm.
was this big dude tattooed. He was a gang member. He walked up to this little dude who was clearly flamboyantly gay. And he started hassling the dude, man. He started, trying to put down on the dude and telling the dude, like, you're going to pay, yada, yada. Like, I guess he'd been doing this for a while and he didn't really know the kid's record too well. He went to shake the dude's hand, got his left hand, ripped the dude's arm up, and got him right in the armpit. He got him in the armpit 2 or 3 times, and there's an artery, the
It's a
carotid
kill
armpit.
shot.
Yeah, got him up there, and the dude bled out before they could get him to medical. Like medical couldn't even get him off the yard before the dude was already unconscious. So watch this dude die in front of me my first day out there, screaming and grabbing his armpit, trying to hold it together. You know what I'm saying? Trying to hold the blood in. I'd never seen that much blood, bro. It was gushing.
Was that something common there?
Somebody's always getting messed up there, bro. It's Gladiator School. You're literally out in the middle of the desert. Vast majority of people there are from the valley, which is like, 6, 7 hours away, 9 hours away. So nobody's getting visits. Everybody's like real low hope, real low morale. So it just turns to violence pretty quickly. This prison was originally built for sex offenders. They put it way out in the middle of the desert. It was like a college campus. It was, gorgeous. It had amenities, like it was really nice, climate control, all of that. The little buttons, the help me buttons
Call
in
button.
every cell. Yeah, the call button. They were segregating all the sex offenders out there. Then the sex offenders, they sued the state for discrimination. It's wild to me. Like you're safe. You know what I'm saying? You just with other weirdos. One.
Do they
Oregon's
last in general population?
Oh, dude, no, it was a nightmare. Like they won the lawsuit and they started taking sex offenders and shipping them out to other prisons
Oh,
and
well, here you go.
shipping regular inmates into there.
A lot of
And every
confusion.
yeah, a lot of confusion, man. Like it caused a lot of wrecks. But then they built two more complexes. So they made it like this huge place, like it holds thousands. You're so far away from everything else. There's some COs that'll bring you in some stuff. The only thing in that town of Ontario is that prison. So it's the whole economy. Real redneck, good old boys. There was really low availability of any type of contraband, except, you could get tobacco once in a while. It turned into a really volatile, violent place. There was still so many sex offenders that the extortion racket was huge. And the gangs started just building in numbers there. They started sending gang members, shipping you to OSP, the maximum penitentiary, full of lifers and gang members there. So it was definitely Gladiator school for a reason.
How big were you when you came in? Because you're a good sized dude. Like, and you
I
said you were coming off drugs. Like, how big were you when you came in the system?
I was at meth weight.
Okay.
100%. I looked like a rotisserie chicken, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like my skin was hanging off me. And like I've always been predicated towards being a big dude, but
Hmm.
like I looked like a bobblehead.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
a good sized dude, and you make me look small. Like,
I've spent the last 4 years in recovery, training and eating. Part of my recovery is working out regularly. I'm in the gym, pushing heavy weights. I got bigger in prison for sure, but I think I'm bigger now than I was when I was in prison.
did you end up maxing out there at that camp?
I was only there for about 6 months. I did a whole shot there and they shot me out to minimum camp. And like, I wasn't minimum custody material at that point in time, bro. I was a knucklehead. I was wilding out. There was a dude who was there who was called the Lane County Bike Path Rapist. And he was the reason that my mama stopped jogging because she would jog that bike path and she didn't feel safe no more. So I
Mm,
got there. I broke that dude open with a rock. This was a
felt
real
personal.
Yeah, this was a real minimum camp. I was acting crazy, bro. I was wilding out. I didn't make it there but a few months, and they shipped me to OSP. It was built in 1850, and it's like the old school penitentiary, like
Been there.
Shawshank Redemption. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I haven't been
Bars.
there, but I've been in those same type of
You
prisons.
already know, bro.
Yeah.
Bars for the doors and all of that.
Dungeons.
Big walls. There's
Hmm.
not barbed wire fences. It's huge
Tall
walls,
castle walls outside.
gun towers, the whole nines, bro. It's dirty, it's old. There's no like air conditioner for the summer, there's no heat for the winter,
Yeah.
but it was in the valley. It was 45
Hmm.
minutes away from home. I could finally start getting visits. So I was really excited about that. I was excited because I got to see my family, and that was really something that weighed heavily on me. I liked OSP. The cells were tiny. They were built to be one-man cells, and then they put a top bunk in, and the
Hmm.
feds came in and said, this is not humane conditions to house inmates. You're going to lose your federal funding if you don't take these out and go back to one man cells and don't want to. So they just kept it at 2-man cells. It has been that way ever since. So that place was wild. Gladiator School was wild, but it was so much more respectful because there weren't as many jits. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of lifers, a lot of gang members that are doing long, all day sets and stuff like that. And it was everybody kind of knew how to conduct themselves. And if you
I
didn't
was,
know how to conduct
mhm,
yourself, you left the line real quick, bro.
I was going to say I prefer places like that. And I know that sounds
Me too.
crazy. I
No,
prefer to be where most of the men have violent charges, very long sentences, have been down for a very long time because there's a different level of respect. Get into those lower levels where guys haven't been locked up long, they're going home, really don't have much time. There's a lot of playing, there's a lot of disrespect, and I'm naturally a violent person, so I don't deal well with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I would prefer to be somewhere like that opposed to a lower level.
Well, and at the end of my sentence, I was there for 18 months when a captain came up to my cell and she said, "Delay, dude, you're smarter than what you're doing. You're always in the mix. Your name is always on my desk. You're not getting in trouble for major stuff, but I know what you got your hands in. Why are you doing this? You're a smart kid. You have potential. Don't you want to go to a minimum?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not, bro. Like, why would I want to go to a minimum? You guys might shoot me 9 hours away. I'll never see my family again until I
Mm-hmm.
parole." And she said, "Well, what about this? You give me 6 months clear conduct. I'll drop you down to minimum and I'll let you choose which minimum you want to go to, any minimum in the state." And I said, "I want to go to the drug program at OSPM. I really want help. I don't want to come back. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
go out there and do the same thing over again." And she said, "I give you my word." Well, I kept my end of the bargain. And 6 months to the day, she walks up to my cell. She said, "Delay, I have asked so many people to make that deal with me. So many people have put their word on it. You're the first one who actually kept your word. Roll it up. You're going over to OSPM. You're on the list for the drug treatment program." And 2 years I'd spent at the penitentiary. That's how I ended up going minimum. The respect level was instantly different, bro.
Yeah.
Instantly different.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent the rest of my little period of time at minimums. It was awful. They
Mm-hmm.
were really truly bad. Oh, the COs, they act like they're doing you a favor that you're in prison and you're at a minimum instead of the max. And I'm like, bro, I preferred my time over there. I was comfortable. You know
You know,
what I'm saying?
they deal with a bunch of goofies all day. So when you come in, they think they can treat you like they treat little Timmy Turner over there or little Shank Maker. You know what I mean? Like they talk to him any type of way, and then they think they can do the same to you, not knowing that you'll pick up a rock and smash him in his head with it.
Yeah, one
You know what I
one
mean?
hundred
Very
percent, dude.
stressful. Very stressful.
I was a knucklehead and I lost every single day of my good time and earned time. I actually left under investigation for attempting to incite a riot at a minimum custody facility. A cop beat up a kid in the bathroom over a cigarette, and me and a couple other dudes organized a hunger strike. We just weren't going to the chow hall. You know what I'm saying? All
Cause
our
them to lose
boxes,
some money, right?
yeah, all our boxes were full. We just wanted to get their attention because they wouldn't get rid of the cop. You put hands on a kid, bro. We don't let you do that here. We were like, we have to do something. We can't just sit here and let this dude walk. So we organized a food strike. 3 days later, the head of DOC and several other people from the state building are in there asking us what to do to squash it. Next day, they cuffed me up, me at another minimum. This minimum was so minimum, it didn't even have a fence, bro. It was like a minimum work camp. And I was, working 5 days a week and all that. But they told me when I left, they're like, "If you come back, we're going to put you in the hole on this. We'll have our investigation done by the end of then, and you will come back." They were like, "We'll keep a bed open for you. You'll be back, Delay, and you're going to go straight to the hole." This cop, I just really didn't like this dude, bro. I told him to eat a trough load of funky discolored dicks, and he handed me my check for $50 that they give you. Here's $50. Go make a life for yourself.
And this is when you were leaving.
Yeah, this was 2010.
All right. While you were on the road camp, did you stay sober? Because I know here when guys get on the road cruise, you know the drill.
Yeah.
Somebody comes out, the bomb gets put somewhere, you know where it's at, you get it, boom. They're not big on searching the guys that go back into the compound. Were you able to? Because I know you've seen it. If y'all
Well,
are
no,
out there
like
working, it's there.
I had people doing drops for me in the parks, but I really just wanted to smoke cigarettes. And every
Right.
once in a while, they would drop a bottle of like 99 apples, 99 bananas, the stuff
Ah,
that smelled fruity. Can't stand it. Can't. That's not what I wanted to drink. But you don't smell like
like a
vodka
bottle of
or
Jim.
tequila.
Yeah, right.
So we just did that to keep it down low. And one of the essays that I was homeboys with, like me and him would get the drops, and we would have everybody else mule stuff back in because I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't feel like muling
Mm-hmm.
until one day it was like winter break was happening. It was getting close to Christmas. It was starting to snow, and our crew boss, who was really cool, this old surly bastard, bro. Every day he would drop us off and he'd be like, "I'm going home to eat a steak and fuck my wife. You guys get some stuff done and look like you did something when I get back here." And he said, "And if you run, they'll catch you. It's an extra 5 years." So we liked this dude, and he told us, "Hey, you guys are going to be in the institution for 2 to 3 weeks. This is your last day out here. So why don't you sissies put some stuff in your butts before we go home?" And because he knew what time it was, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? He wasn't even a real cop. He was like Department of Transportation or Department of Parks, something, one of those department dudes. And so I'm sitting here and I've got this huge bag of tobacco. Everybody else is all packed up, and I'm like doing the math in my head. I'm not gonna have enough to get me through smoking, bro. I'm like, I'm gonna run out of gas. So I'm like, I have to do this. I have to mule some stuff in. And I make myself up a pack, bro, and I'm looking at it.
Okay, that
It
was my next question because
Yeah,
I
bro.
was in prison when you could still buy bags of tobacco, and a
Damn.
bag of Midnight Special is like legitly like this long, like this wide,
Yeah.
6.5 ounces of tobacco. Like,
Yeah. So like we couldn't get tobacco in there at all whatsoever. So but on the outside crew camps, everybody's got it. But
mhm,
if you don't got no crews coming in or out, everybody gonna run out. And I know ain't nobody gonna be like taking care of me the way that I was taking care of everybody else, because it just don't work like that. It
mhm,
should, but it don't.
right.
So I rolled up 2 ounces and 2 cans of chew, in a couple plastic, sandwich bags from our lunches. And then, I cut the glove finger off, roll it over, tie it off, do another one the other direction. I'm looking at this thing, bro, and I'm like, legitimately, this thing's bigger than a turd. Like, I'm not cool with this. Not one bit, bro. Not one bit. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, this thing's bigger than my manhood. I'm not trying to deal with this. And so I go out and I'm like, hey, where's that Vaseline? And everybody's like, bro, we out of Vaseline. And I'm like, what you mean, dog?
It's about the
What you
corn
mean?
cob it.
Right. And so yeah, like I'm like, what am I supposed to do? One dude goes, spit on it. And this other dude goes, hey man, there's this pack of mayonnaise that's been open for a few days. You can use that. And I'm looking at it, it's got a green tint on it, right? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't eat this because I'd probably get sick, but I'm sure it's safe to put in your butt, right? Because I'm just dumb, bro. I'm dumb at that point. I'm like, poo comes out of there, so it probably won't make me sick putting it up in there. Bro, I take that thing into the porta potty. That's all lined. The porta potty's all lined with porno flicks and everything. And I'm sitting in there and I'm like lubing this thing up, and I'm like, whoa, oh, oh, this thing's like, bro, I'm feeling it, right? And I got 45 minutes to wait till this dude comes back to pick us up. And then a like 35-minute drive back to the institution. I felt every speed bump, every pebble, every rut in the road. This thing's inside. I'm just mm, right. And
Feeling like you got to use the bathroom so
bro,
bad.
so bad. And like they call randomly different people every time you come back to do the strip search.
A
And
squat
I'm
and
like,
cough.
yeah, I'm like, cool. They're not gonna pick me today. They picked me yesterday. They're not gonna pick. They sure picked me.
To
And
squat and cough?
yeah, 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 yeah. And
Ah.
so like I'm tripping at this point because I've done the squat and cough hundreds of times, but never with the plug in. And I know that dudes do it and get away with it all the time, but like, bro, I
I've
feel.
seen them shoot out.
Have you really?
Yes,
Oh
yes,
no.
yeah.
Yeah, so but I got through that. They weren't really tripping, like they didn't care that
Clenching your
much
cheeks
anyway.
super
I was
tight.
clenching so hard, bro. But I get back up in there, get the thing out, everything's good. I'm like, yeah, killing it. This is great. I got tobacco and I got 3 weeks off of work. The next day I woke up, it might have even been later that night, and I felt this ache, bro, from my pucker to halfway up my spine. Like this
Mm,
terrible ache, bro. Like it was so bad. And I'm instantly put in a kite to medical. I was popping all these ibuprofen right and left. And
mhm.
medical was pretty decent there, like about their timing. You put in the kite and you get to go down and see somebody usually the next day if it's not a weekend. They call me down there, and the doctor is like, okay, so what's going on? And I explained to him, yo, it hurts from my leather Cheerio up to my lower back, dog. And he goes, cool, what'd you put in your ass? I'm like, that's ridiculous. What do you mean? He goes, are you letting other dudes run you through, or did you sneak something in? None of that. None of that. I just think I have an infection, and can you give me some antibiotics? He
Been
said,
doing
no,
this a long time, man.
a
Come
long
on
time.
now.
Yeah.
He took
He,
one look and was like, "Yeah, all right."
so he was this Indian dude, and he was like probably 6'8", huge dude. He goes, yeah, okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna have to check you out. And I'm like, what you mean? He said, I mean, drop your pants and grab that counter over there. And I'm like, oh, hell no, bro. Just give me antibiotics. He's like, can't do it. Let's do this. We're going to do this. I drop my pants defiantly. I grab the counter and I look back, and this dude has a glove on and he's KYing 2 fingers. And I'm like, 2 fingers? He goes, don't worry, I'm a medical professional. You're a medical professional with corn dogs for fingers, bro. And he's like, you're a funny guy. I like you. He goes, breathe deep. And I'm like, right? So he does this. Does this hurt? Yes, that hurts. Does this? Yes, that hurts. And then he does this like colossal knuckle drag, like he's trying to like peel a melon or something inside me. And I'm like, oh, and he goes, is that everything hurts. Every bit of what you did hurts. He goes, yeah, you have a prostate infection. We're gonna have to give you some antibiotics. And I'm like I said in the first place before you violated me. And he starts laughing. He's laughing the whole time, gives me the antibiotics, everything cleared up. I'm good. 10 days later, this dude calls me back down there and he's like, how is everything? I'm like, 100%. Thank you. I appreciate you checking in. He goes, no, I need to check you again. I said, bro, we could buck up, bro. Like, what's you trying to do? You need to check me again. He said, well, I have to check you again. And it's either that or I have to write you up and you're going to go to the hole. And I'm like, so either you're going to my hole or I'm going to the hole. I'm like, really seriously thinking this over. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. So I dropped my
But you
pants.
probably got stuff back in the dorm. You got tobacco, stuff
I
back in the
do.
dorm. So
Like,
you can't just take a hit at medical because you're going to get tore off. So
yeah, you already know. I do all the
right,
math. I'm running it all down.
right.
What it's going to cost me, what it's going to be worth. Do I want to really go to the hole right before
Mhm.
Christmas? It's right before Christmas, and I know
Terrible
my
timing.
family's coming. I'm
Mhm.
finally getting visits from my son.
Not in the
You know what I'm
hole, you're not.
saying? Not
Right.
in the hole, not at all whatsoever. So I dropped my pants even more defiantly. I dramatically grabbed the counter. I'm like, come on, let's see what you got. And I look back and he's lubing 1 finger. And I'm like, only 1 finger now that I'm not in writhing agony? And he goes, yeah, I like you. You're a funny guy. I decided I'd be nice to you this time. Like, you piece of shit. Are you kidding me? So yeah, that was the only time that I ever hooped anything when I was in prison.
Hey guys, the moral of the story is A, don't hoop anything, and B, if you are going to, do not use expired 3-day-old open mayonnaise in a porta john.
Yeah, if it has a green tint to it, bro, it's no bueno.
If it's normal mayonnaise, do your thing. But if it's green, that's just not good lube.
Maybe just spit on it.
Or don't get locked up and have to suitcase things in your rectum cavity. There's always
probably
that.
probably don't smoke meth and steal cars is another great life lesson and abject lesson out of this.
So you came home, man. How was that? I know the
Man,
day I came home was one of the most amazing, unrealistic days of my life. How was it coming home?
so you know what it is, bro. It was like Christmas times a million. You know what I'm saying? It's getting your whole entire life back. It's
You've rebuilt your
overwhelming.
bond with your family, so you
Yeah,
got all that
bro.
again.
Yeah, and my parents are waiting at the gate with my son. I've got a picture somewhere of me scooping him up and lifting him off his feet and you know
He's how
holding
old at
him.
that time?
8, 9 at that time.
Mhm.
9. He was 9 years old. And I'm out. I'm loving life. I'm laying low, just spending time with family. I wanted to catch up with the family. I wasn't that dude who was like, man, I haven't drank in years. I haven't had pussy in years. All that shit could wait. I just wanted
Mhm.
time with my family. My baby's mom was a little skeptical of me getting my shit together, which she had every right to be. Like
She did.
100%, bro. Like
Mhm.
her skepticism was 100% warranted, and like I held no resentment about it. She was kind enough to give me like 4 or 5 days with him, and I spent every minute with him. um I wrote him letters 2 times a week the entire time that I was down. And I found out, a couple of years later after I got out, that she hadn't read him not one letter.
Wow.
So there was a point where we ended up acquiring those letters, and I sat down and I read through all those letters with my kid. He wanted to hear every letter that I wrote, and I'm like, some of these are really repetitive, buddy.
It's kind of a gift, man, because I mean, it's a gift and the curse that he didn't get them to get to know how you were feeling, but to actually be able to read them to him is a it's a beautiful thing, man.
It was a powerful moment, bro. And like, he just had thought that I just was ignoring him while I was locked up. So for him to get that, I feel like it gave him a feeling of peace, and it really increased our bond. It
Mm-hmm.
was just a really cathartic, healing, beautiful moment with my kid. Um, he deserved better than letters, but it was all that I was able to do.
I get it.
Um, and it took a lot to rebuild that relationship and make that right with him. And that was one of those moments that I think was a stepping stone towards doing that.
So
So
you come home from prison. Um, Previous to that, you were an addict. You were a criminal. Did you stay sober?
so I did not go back to meth. I started drinking, but I held it down to just drinking. I thought that I could just do it. I didn't fully have the idea that I was an addict yet.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that crystal meth just grabbed me, and that was my only really unhealthy vice. I drank pretty heavily. I immediately got a really good job. I got married. I got a house. I was working for the parks department in Oregon, and we had a caretaker house in the middle of a huge park. And I started a band, and my band was able to practice out there because we didn't have any neighbors. It was a really wild time, bro. But I was drinking through the whole time, and I was even drinking when I had my son. I had him over at my house one day, and I went and drove him home, and I was sober because I had to drive, but I drove him home. He called me 5 minutes later crying, said he was hiding in the closet because his mom had assaulted him. And so I turned right back around, bro. I turned right back around. I picked him up. I had him from then on out. Like, he was with me for the rest of the years after that. I was drinking while he was there, and it wasn't like drinking out of control, but it wasn't being present with him. It wasn't
Right.
giving him the attention and the presence, and making up for the time that we lost.
Mm-hmm.
My whole focus should have been on him. It shouldn't have been on, like, I just got off work, I need to have a few beers. You know what I'm saying? I may have been drinking a 6-pack a night, and for a dude my size, that's not getting out of control or nothing. But
Mm.
like, I wasn't in the moment with the
It's just
kid.
getting started.
Yeah. And that marriage ended up failing, and it went bad, and I ended up relapsing. It went a bad way when I relapsed, and I ended up catching another charge for stealing a car. And they had a pretty solid case. They had a witness that had me getting out of this stolen car in a parking lot, walking around for a little bit, going back to the car. Then I saw the police lights coming, jumping out, and starting to walk away. And he had me in a direct line of sight, and he testified to all of that. When they caught me, I had a backpack that had shaved keys in it. It had meth in it.
Mm.
And since I had that heavy record already, with the convictions, district attorney came at me with like 7 years. The most you can give me is 5 years. She's like, well, this is the only deal I'm going to give you. Other than this, we can take it to trial. And I said, run it to trial. Well, I ain't going to lose nothing. What, you want to give me 2 extra years? You want me to sign for that? It's illegal sentencing.
You've gone over my guidelines.
Yeah, exactly. So we ran it to trial. I had a good attorney. I copped out to the unlawful entry of a motor vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I pled guilty to the theft, the like petty theft for the backpack and that stuff. I told him, I didn't steal that car. Here's what happened. I walked up to that car, all the doors were open. It was cold. I had been drinking. I was really cold. It was raining out. The officers already attested to that. I was looking for a jacket. I never moved that car. I had read the laws. The actual law states that moving the car is what constitutes unlawful use of a motor vehicle. You can enter the car, and that's just,
Even if it's just 2 feet.
yeah. Yeah,
Roll 2 feet. Step on
if
the
you
clutch, roll 2 feet. That's auto theft.
it has to move at least an inch, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Now you can get in and start the car, and that's not unauthorized use, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do none of that they could see. Like, I ended up beating it. The jury believed me that I didn't steal that car. I ended up walking out, bro. Like,
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing 7 years. At that point, I decided I was Kevlar, bro. I'm bulletproof, you know what I'm saying? Nothing can touch me. And before I got that not guilty verdict, I'd have put a hand on a Bible with my other hand on a lie detector, and I'd have passed saying I would never do meth again. I would never do crime again. If you just get me out of this, I'm going to live the right way. I won't even smoke cigarettes. Like I copped all the pleas to God
Right.
in that holding cell before I went back in to get my sentence. I walked out, I felt totally validated. Like they
None of
couldn't
that
touch
mattered.
me.
Right.
Yeah. So I was back in that same unit that I was on fighting that case less than a month later.
Life. Shane Williams, let's live life with back.